In this video, I am going to show you exactly how to create a Retell AI conversation flow agent. And if you don't know what that is, don't worry, stick around. I'm going to show you from A to Z exactly how I am creating this conversation flow agent. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Justin, and I like to create content just like this to show you how I solve problems in my business and in my client's business. Now, if you're new, I have this school community where everything that I cover inside of this video, whether it is a conversation, export of an agent, the JSON that you can just copy, paste, import it, or any prompting that I use in here, you'll be able to come into the free school community. I'll include a link below. Come over here to video announcements. You can find the video, and then if the video has an attachment, let's say this one, you will be able to just go ahead, click it, and download it so you can import it into your Retell AI. Now, another way to find it is you come here to classrooms, you can go to YouTube resources, and this is all organized in chronological order, and you could just search for the title of this video and you will find it just the same. Now, if you're more serious and you want to join our premium community, we do have a premium community. You can check it out. But enough of that. Let's hop into the tutorial here. What are the benefits of the conversation flow agent? Like most conversations can go a million different directions. And so Retell has recently released the ability to build agents using what's called conversation flow. And they claim to give you more control over the conversation, the ability to handle like granular scenarios. You're able to handle essentially different, let's say you're like, in this case, we're going to build for a home service business. This is an inbound agent that will essentially take a call that probably would have been missed and essentially try to qualify lead, determine if they need our services, collect some information and pass it over to the business owner. But they also might be calling just to collect general information and maybe cancel reschedule appointments. So I'm going to keep it very basic here as far as functionality goes, but this has a lot of potential. And one of the biggest things I am excited about is that this has the ability to reduce hallucinations. Because we're giving it a defined path, we should reduce the chances that the AI hallucinates or just comes up with things randomly. Right over here, Retell AI has some pretty good documentation covering the overview of what these conversation flow agents are, their components, and how they work. So if you get a chance, it's a quick read. I recommend just reviewing that. So let's come in here, and before we actually start building, what I want to do is I'm going to take a prompt that I use for my inbound voice AI course. It's actually the exact same prompt in that course, and I'm just going to try to convert that prompt into the conversation flow agent. I think that's helpful for people. To date, about close to 700 people have downloaded this course and this prompt, and some people are using this framework to deploy to their actual clients, and they're providing services. But I get feedback sometimes saying, hey, the agent forgot to say goodbye, or maybe it forgot to ask for a certain piece of information like their address or something. And it's pretty normal nowadays. This is cutting edge technology, and so it's not perfect, but I think a conversation flow agent might help us fix and alleviate some of those issues. So we're going to take this prompt, and I'm going to provide this prompt in the school community download for free. So I'll provide that here so that you can go through the exercise alongside with me. I'm also going to provide an export of the entire, let me go to my demo account, an export of the entire voice AI agent that we create here. So you can just import it and work alongside me. Now, here's what we're going to cover as far as fundamentals go. We're going to cover nodes, global nodes. The difference between nodes and global nodes, I think, is pretty important. And then I'm going to cover sort of my intent-based framework. I'm not going to go in depth there, but essentially my intent-based framework is an attempt to take a conversation that's incredibly dynamic and shrink it down into one that fits into one of 5 or 6 buckets. You'll see what I mean here when we create this agent. And then we're going to cover call transfers. That's another fundamental that I want to cover here because it is not as straightforward as you might think it is inside of the conversation flow agent. Here is what we're trying to aim at. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is hop into our Retell account. I'm going to leave these docs open just in case I need it. And by the way, I'm building this live alongside with you. I have some notes here beside me, but by no means is this a refined process. So you're going to see the troubleshooting and the development as we go through. So let's come in here and let me create an agent, and we are going to select the conversation flow agent. And I'm going to start from scratch here. There are some templates that Retell provides us, but let's start from scratch so we can get the most practice. First things first, I'm going to come up here on the right-hand side and rename my agent. I'll name this Inbound Home Service Demo. Awesome. And the first thing we're going to do is instead of worrying about this map here, this canvas here, where all our nodes are going to be laid out, I'm going to come over here and make sure our global settings are sufficient. So what I want to do is I'm going to skim through this prompt here, and we're actually going to take the information that's not specific to a scenario and include it in the global prompt. For example, the role here is probably a good candidate for a global prompt. Our guardrails is probably some good information that should be in the global prompt. Essential business information that can probably be in the global prompt, or it can be in a knowledge base if it was more expansive. In this case, I think I'll just include it in the global prompt. But right over here, once we hit script flow, this stuff, we're going to try to handle this using the nodes in the canvas. Noticed, yep, I thought that was a typo. Information collection steps, we're going to try to, we're going to build this out inside of the canvas with nodes. And closing, we're going to try to build that out as well. Warm for a while. Awesome. So I think we have some good information here. So with the role, let's just review this real quick. You're a Samantha, friendly professional representative, yada, your primary task. I think I'm going to remove tasks out of here. You aim to make the college train serious, mandatory part of your role. I'll leave the task. Okay, I'm gonna omit this last piece here from my global prompt just because I think we're gonna be able to handle that with a end call node. So let's come over here and copy this prompt, and actually I should copy role as well, just so that we can stay organized. And I'm going to paste that here inside of the global prompt. Let's see what else we can take over. I mentioned the guardrails. Let me take a look at these guardrails. Make no promises. Do not provide pricing. Do not ever end the call without a proper goodbye. Cool. I don't have the information right now. Cool. Don't make stuff up. Awesome. And then the essential business information, I'm just going to copy both of these because these are both relevant to the global prompt. This is information that's going to be useful regardless of what step it is on. Cool. Let's save that. Let's come in here. Script flow. All right. We're gonna pause here because I know none of this needs to be in the global prompt. So let's just go with this right now. I'm going to leave the voice to English, the voice to CMO, and our global prompt to GPT-4o. As a matter of fact, 4.1 Mini just came out and it's super cheap. So let's just go ahead and build this one using 4.1 Mini. Let's see what happens. All right, the rest of the settings, these are global settings. So these settings apply to the entirety of the conversation flow agent and not specifically to the individual nodes. So for the knowledge base, we're not going to upload a knowledge base at the moment. Speech settings, let's see what we have in here. We're not going to do any background noise. We are going to enable speech normalization. I like enabling this because this takes things like, let's say the voice agent is reading out a date like 2025. Instead of saying 2025, it'll say 2025 and just normalize the speech. So I think that is a nice feature. All right, call settings. We'll come down here. We will turn on, no, we're not going to turn on voicemail detection. This is an inbound agent, so we don't really care about the voicemail detection. Now, right over here, on average, I've seen that my calls for my clients last about 1 minute and 30 seconds. So this end call on silence and this max call duration, I'm going to modify this a little bit because we're getting charged every second that this voice agent is actually operating. So silence, if the call goes silent for over 2 minutes, then we should end the call. I think everybody could agree with that. And then max call duration, I'm going to bring that down to 5 minutes just in case like a bot calls and you don't have sort of two bots talking to each other for draining your bank account. Pause before speaking. I'm not going to have any pause before speaking. This is an inbound agent. I want it to speak immediately. And then I'm not going to worry about post-call analysis right now, but essentially post-call analysis, what this is after the call is complete, we can define these structured pieces of data that we want to pull out of the call here in post-call analysis. So let's say we wanted to see what the service interest was, the service the caller was interested in. And I'll give an example of leak repair fixture installation water heater. install. So if we wanted the call to be analyzed after the call was complete, which you would, because you don't want these calls to just happen for no reason, we can add some post-call analysis here. And essentially what the agent will do is after the call is complete, it will look and it will review the transcript and determine if it can pull out what service the caller was interested in, and it will place it inside of this post-call data. And that post-call data can be shipped off to another system like your CRM so that you can go ahead and log it inside of your CRM for that contact. But we're not going to focus on this right now. We're going to focus on building out the prompt. So security and fallback settings, I'm not going to worry about this right here. We're not going to do any sensitive data storage. This is a home service company. Everything else here should be default. And then our webhook settings, we're not going to change anything here, but essentially if you wanted the end of call report to be shipped off somewhere else, let's say you're using Go High Level or HubSpot or whatever CRM, you can essentially send a message every time a call is completed and analyzed, and then you can take that information like the post-call analysis data and store it in the CRM. But for the purpose of this video, I think we are good to go on the global settings. Let's go ahead and create our first node. So this is the begin section here, and this is our welcome node. So right here that we can, let me zoom in a little bit, see if I'm able to, there we go. So this is the welcome node, and you see here when we click in here, we can tell the welcome node to either use a prompt to say something or use a static sentence. So for the welcome node, this is the first thing that the person says when they answer the phone, or the agent says when they answer the phone. And so I want that to be static. So if I come over here to my handy dandy prompt, you notice that the greeting is here. And so I want the agent to say, hello, thank you for calling ABC Plumbing. This is Samantha. How can I help you today? So what I'll do is I will copy that and paste it in here. And at this point, whatever comes out of this response is what's going to shape where the call goes. Okay. So this here is where the intent-based framework comes in. And in the course, I go over a few different scenarios, and those scenarios, I'll pull them up over here just so you can see where is the intent. All right, so you see here in the in-a-call workflow, we have these sort of different scenarios. We have somebody's calling because they want to book an estimate. They're calling because they want to cancel or reschedule an existing appointment. They're calling to complain. They're calling because they have a general inquiry. They're calling and they want to be transferred or other, okay? So these are my intents. These are the buckets that I was telling you about. So let's go ahead and build out these different transitions. So essentially, whatever the caller responds, if it matches any of these transitions, it will define what happens next. And we're going to go ahead and delete these, and we're going to start from scratch. And so first one is caller is requesting an estimate. That's one intent. Another intent, caller would like to cancel or reschedule an existing appointment. Let's see if I spelled that correctly. Cool. Caller would like to file a complaint. Caller just has a general inquiry. Okay, let's see, what else did we have here? Call transfer, we're going to handle a little bit different. We're going to handle this differently. Okay, so I think these are the intents that we want to solve for right now. Let me check my notes here. Caller has any more question. Yeah, let's see something real quick. Let's add, oh, we didn't need that one. Caller has no more questions. So just in case they get sent back to here and they have no questions, then they can be released from the call. So here we go. Let's build out this requesting an estimate. So if we come back to our prompt, you see the reason for calling. If the caller is requesting an estimate, then move to the information collection steps. That's how I defined the prompt before when we were just using a single prompt. So let's go down to the information collection steps and we look at what we're collecting. So we need their name, we need their service interest, we need any additional details for that service, their address, and their contact preference, and then a preferred contact time. So that's quite a bit of information that we need to collect. So that'll be the next step. And so let's come over here and let's create a conversation node. I think that's how that would go. Let's see. And let's name this collect estimate information. And now, instead of a static sentence, I'm going to actually just prompt it. I'm going to try to minimally prompt it to see if we can get the information that we want. And let's see, gather the following information in a conversational manner. Ask these questions one at a time to not overwhelm the caller. Information required. We'll say name, address, service interest, any additional details of the job, any additional details for the project. This can be optional, because maybe they don't have additional details. And preferred contact method, call text, and preferred contact back time. Okay, cool. That might be too much for this node. I don't know. We'll see. All right, so let's see. If caller, the transition for this, you know what I'm going to do here? So actually, I'm going to demonstrate this later. Now, we're just going to do it because I know that this is going to be a problem. So what happens is that these conversation flow agents are pretty cool, but they tend to be pretty static unless you use what are called global nodes. So I'm going to use like this middle section, the step after all of these transition, and I'm going to make these all global nodes. And the reason I'm doing that is because let's say a caller, if we reach out or if they call in and they just had a general inquiry, like they ask, hey, what is your service area? And your agent responds with the service area. And then they're like, oh, cool. Can I schedule an estimate? If this wasn't a global node, then the agent breaks. It doesn't really know what to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this node and I'm going to toggle on global node. And then under the description, it says describe the condition to jump to this node. We want to jump to this node if the caller wants to schedule an estimate. Cool. And that makes it a global node. You see you have this little green dot here. Now, what we can do is over here under this transition, callers requesting an estimate. So after they call, they said they're requesting an estimate. We're just going to click and drag and connect this global node. So now that is the next step, which is awesome. I'm going to move that up here so we can move on to caller would like to cancel or reschedule an existing appointment. And can I just copy this? Let's see if I can duplicate this. Yeah, there you go. Duplicate. Let's drag this down. Let's rename this. Cancel or reschedule an appointment. I'm not going to go into functions building here in this tutorial because we're already covering a lot, but instead we're just going to gather the information. So if you come over here to our prompt, we say, hey, if the caller is requesting to cancel or reschedule an appointment, then move to the information gathering and gather the name and address. So all we need is the name and the address. You are not able to reschedule appointments, but you can pass it to the estimate team. Okay, perfect. This is good stuff that I can include in my little mini prompt here. So let's go ahead and clear this out and say, gather the required information to cancel or reschedule an appointment. Note, you are not able to cancel or reschedule on the call, but instead you are collecting information to pass to the estimate team immediately. Cool, just a brief description, and then the required information is name and address. Awesome. So if somebody's calling to cancel an appointment, we are going to just ask for their name and address. And I want to repeat this blurb every single time, and that might be indicative of this needing to be in the global prompt. So if I come over here, let's see if we can throw that into the guardrails here. Collect all information in a conversational manner. Limit questions. Limit information gathering to one question at a time. So let's see if we can get away with that and removing it here. Okay, I'm going to see if we can do that. I think that might work. We'll see. Gather the required information. And I'm just going to remain consistent in how I introduced these prompts. Gather the required information to schedule an estimate. You cannot schedule estimates live on the call. Instead, you will pass all information to the estimate team. Cool. All right. So I think that should be good. Now, next, let's go ahead and connect this node. Oh, so we copied this, so we need to be careful. So this global node here carried over from the last one if the caller wants to schedule an estimate. And so we need to modify this to say if the caller wants to cancel or reschedule an existing appointment. And I probably misspelled that because my recording software covers this. I sure did. Okay. Awesome. Now, next thing we're gonna do is just to make sure we connect it. So let's go ahead and connect that. Next scenario we have here is if the caller is complaining. So let's go back to our prompt here. If the caller is calling about a complaint, reassure them that their issue matters, collect the name and details of the complaint, skip the rest of the information gathering steps. Cool. So let's just come over here and we will duplicate this, zoom out a little bit, drag this down. Complaint. Let's go ahead and make sure the global node description is changed. If the caller is complaining, yeah, let's leave it there. Caller's complaining. Might need to be a little bit more specific there, but that's fine for now. Oh, what did I do here? Did I cut and paste? I sure did. Let me just fix this real quick. Gather the required information to reschedule an existing estimate or service. Cool. All right. So, complaint. If we are complaining, gather the following information: name and details of the complaint. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of context here. Reassure that your issue matters. Awesome. And I'm just going to paste that, reassure them that their issue matters. Cool. And let's go ahead and connect this. Looks good. Next thing, caller just has a general inquiry. So how do we handle general inquiries? Let me see. I think general inquiries, I don't necessarily think we need a node for that because the global node has all the information that would answer general inquiries. So if they're going to have a general inquiry, I'm just like not actually going to transition them to another node. And that's an option too. You can just leave them at this welcome node. And then if they have no more questions right here, then we can move them to an end call node. And so we'll build out our end call node right now. So let me try to keep this organized and let's move. Do we have an end? Yeah, ending right here. So we have an end call node. However, this call or this node actually ends the call. So if we just jump to this, it'll just hang up on them. And so we actually need another conversation node right before, and we'll call this like farewell. This doesn't need to be a global node because if they have no more questions, actually it could be a global node. We could say, hey, if the caller has no more questions, then it doesn't matter where they're at in the conversation. They could jump to this node and then we can end the call. Cool. And for the farewell, this is cool because we're going to be able to actually make sure that they don't get hung up on. So what I want to do for the farewell is let's confirm all relevant information if appropriate. So for example, if like they scheduled an estimate, we want to confirm that information. What else? Ask the contact or the caller if they have any more questions. So the cool thing is, because we have these global nodes, let's say they do have another question, and let's say that question, I don't know, like something about canceling or rescheduling an appointment, then they would just come back here and they can go down this workflow. It doesn't matter if they jumped around, so long as the global node is available, they can come back to that workflow. And if they have a general business question, because the main prompt applies globally, it will just stay here in the farewell step and answer the general question. And then bid a warm farewell to the contact. Cool. So I'm just trying to be minimalistic on purpose just to see how this goes. We're going to test this. And then the description right here for this transition is if the caller has no more questions, then we are going to end the call. Okay. Now we got to make some connections here. So essentially for this first node back here, the estimate, the transition here is going to be if the caller provided all relevant information, or I should say required, then we will move this here. And I notice here that this is optional. So I'm going to move this into optional if appropriate. We could probably get more specific here, but there you go. So long as the required information is collected, then we're good to go. Sometimes asking for additional details is redundant because most people tell us what they need inside of their service interest. Whenever we ask that question, they'll give us all the details we need. Cool. Gather. Let's see. Yeah, I think the transition for cancel or reschedule is going to be the same. So I'm just going to copy this transition here. I'll edit this transition and paste it. And we will do the same for the complaint. And then all that's left to do is to connect these nodes to the end call node. Okay. And here. Awesome. So now what's happening is we're hitting the farewell node, which will allow us to say goodbye, make sure they have no remaining questions, and then we will end the call. So I think this will work right now. There's one more node or one more piece of functionality that I want to add before we move on, and that is call transfers. So if somebody requests a call transfer, we want that to be a global node as well, but we're not necessarily going to connect it to any of this. We can leave it all on its own. We don't need to connect it. So if I come over here to call transfer, I'm going to just drag it down here in the bottom corner, and let's call this call transfer. Let's make this a global node. If the caller requests to speak to a human or if they are very angry, we will transfer the call. And for the prompt, this specific node is not actually going to transfer the call. We're going to add a function node, a call transfer node right after this. But what we are going to do is we're going to provide some conversation. If they're very angry or if they want to be transferred to a human, we are going to inform the caller that you will attempt to transfer their call now. And the cool thing here, inside of this node, these node settings, we can skip response. So in this case, we don't need to evaluate different transitions. It's pretty obvious the person's either angry or they specifically requested to be transferred to a human. So there's no transitions needed. We can just skip response, and that will change this transition to skip responses. And then we can immediately connect to a call transfer node. And so let's just go ahead and connect these two. And then what we do here in this call transfer node is we have a phone number here. I'm going to leave this phone number here just as a demo, and we can choose whether it's a cold transfer or a warm transfer. If it's a warm transfer, the AI agent will actually give like a brief description of why it's being transferred before the call gets transferred, which is nice. And then you get to choose what number do you want to display on the caller ID. And we can make this a global node, but we don't need to because the conversation node right before it is a global node. So the only transition we have here is what happens if the transfer failed. And so if the transfer fails, which in this case, while we're testing, it is going to fail because I have a fake number in there, and we're just going to test this agent using the web call here. So transfer is really going to fail here because it only works when you actually have a live call and you have a number that works. So let's name this conversation node transfer failed, and then we can apologize to the caller for a failed transfer. Assure them that we will notify our team that they called. Cool. So now let's say that the call, let's see, ask them if you can help with anything else. All right, so the call transfer failed. Let's say the person you transferred the call to didn't answer, went to voicemail or something. Then you can essentially just apologize, and then you can ask them if there's anything else you can help with. And in this case, because we have our intents over here, the estimate, the cancel, reschedule appointment, and complaints, these are global nodes. So we shouldn't have to make transitions for them. If they say, yeah, sure, fine, I'll schedule an estimate, then it should automatically jump to the estimate node. But one thing we do want here is the same transition here. Oh, actually, if the caller does not have any more questions, then we will move them to the farewell side. So let's go ahead and connect these nodes before I forget. And let's move this over here to farewell. Sweet. So I think we'll test that we have a decent system here. We'll see. If you're very well experienced in the conversation flow building, please comment down below. If I'm doing anything wrong, please comment down below. I'm a lifelong learner. This is all new technology, so I totally don't think that I am the master at this, but I think that I've made enough sense for this to work. Cool. Let's just go ahead and test it. Nice thing about the conversation flow is you can test individual nodes by clicking on the node and then clicking test, or you can click out into the global section, into the canvas, and you can just test the whole node specifically, and then it'll highlight where we are in the call. So let's go ahead and test the node. So once I test, you should see the welcome node highlight. Let's do it.
Hello. Thank you for calling ABC Plumbing. This is Samantha. How can I help you today?
Hey, Samantha. I was calling to schedule an estimate.
Got it. I can definitely help with that. To get started, can I have your name, please?
Yeah, my name is Justin.
Thanks, Justin. Could you please share the address where the estimate would be needed?
123 Main Street.
Thanks for that, Justin. What kind of plumbing service are you looking to get an estimate for?
I have a leak in my crawl space that I'm looking to get fixed. It's been leaking for the last 4 months, and I've just been ignoring it, but I think it's starting to damage the foundation.
Thanks for sharing that, Justin. I understand how concerning that must be. To make sure our estimate team can reach you easily, would you prefer to be contacted by call or text?
Text is fine.
Thanks, Justin. And when would be a good time for our team to get back to you via text?
I'm retired, so anytime is fine.
All right, Justin, just to confirm, you're at 123 Main Street dealing with a leak in your crawl space that's been going on for about 4 months, and you'd like our team to reach out by text anytime since you're retired. Does that sound right?
Yep,
Do you have any
that
other
sounds
questions
right.
for me before?
No other questions.
Great, Justin. I've got all the details noted. If you have any more questions or need anything else, just let me know. Otherwise, thanks for calling ABC Plumbing and have a wonderful day.
So that's pretty cool. That's actually a pretty good experience. When I was building out the single prompt agent, it took a lot of engineering and testing to get it to work the way that just did right there. I'm also excited that because I put the ask one question at a time in the global prompt, it actually adhered to that. It was pretty smooth. I do notice that in the conversation flow agent, there is a little kind of inconsistency and like inflection as it switches from like node to node. I feel like the tone and inflection gets lost a little bit. But again, this doesn't need to be a perfect system. This is essentially playing backup QB for the home service team here. So let's go ahead and we'll give it one more test. I'm going to call and complain. And then I think appointment rescheduling and stuff will work just as we expect. But I want to call and make a complaint about a service. And I'm curious to see if it automatically goes to transfer or it actually tries to collect the information in the complaint node. So let's go ahead and do that.
Hello, thank you for calling ABC Plumbing. This is Samantha. How can I help you today?
Hey, one of your techs was over at my house today and they smelled like marijuana and I don't appreciate that.
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, and I totally understand why that would be upsetting. Your concern definitely matters to us. Could I start by getting your name, please?
Justin Melendez?
Thanks, Justin. I really appreciate you sharing that with us. Could you tell me a bit more about what happened during the visit?
I already told you, he showed up and he smelled like weed and I don't appreciate it because I have kids in this house.
Thank you for sharing that, Justin. I've noted your concern about the technician smelling like marijuana during the visit. Is there anything else you'd like to ask or share with
As a
me
matter of
today?
fact, you sound like you're a robot. Can I just talk to a human?
I understand, Justin. I'm going to try to transfer your call to someone who can assist you further right now. Please hold on a moment. Oh, I'm really sorry about that, Justin. The transfer didn't go through, but I'll make sure to let our team know you called. Is there anything else I can help you with right now?
You know what? We actually have an appointment scheduled for Friday and I'm just going to go ahead and I want to cancel that.
Got it, Justin. I can help with that by passing your request to our estimate team. Could you please confirm the address where the appointment is scheduled?
123 Main Street.
Thanks, Justin. Just to confirm, your name is Justin Melendez and the address is 123 Main Street, right?
That's right.
Thanks for confirming, Justin. I've noted your request to cancel the appointment at 1.
Pretty cool. I actually went through and tested more functionality. So I'm actually a pretty big fan of how this is built out right now. And if I had to redo this over again, I built this agent specifically, this prompt specifically for Go High Level. And I think that's awesome. I'm able to handle inbound calls for my clients. And I like the ability to copy and paste it and keep everything inside of Go High Level. But if I ever had a need or I had a client who didn't have Go High Level and I wanted to build this same agent out, I think I would build it using a conversation flow agent inside of Retell AI. So hopefully this was a valuable tutorial for you. Thank you for sticking with me and watching me build this. And I noticed, you know what? Stand by. Caller has no more questions. Let's go ahead and connect that. We didn't test that piece over. This is an imperfect system, but thank you for standing by as we built this together. I'm going to go ahead and export this right now before I forget, and then I will post it for free in the school community. So if you want to keep this in your library of tools, or maybe you want to use this as a starting point, you're free to go ahead, hop in the Automation Station school community, find the post, and then download that and put it to good use. Thanks again, and don't forget to click that subscribe button. Have a nice day. Peace.